Unless you have been living under a rock, which might not be such a bad idea this year, you've probably heard of the carnivore diet. And I'm talking all things carnivore today, so strap in and get ready for episode 174. Let's go.
The future of fitness.
How do you gain muscle mass?
Fitness is not complicated. It's simple when you break it down.
There's so much information out there.
No fads, no diets, just plain simple habits.
You're listening to the Bones to Bulk podcast.
Hey, welcome to today's episode. My name is Brian Parody, and before we jump in to today's episode, if this is your first time listening, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here. For all my return listeners, thank you so much for coming back. It means the world to me that you choose to tune in to this podcast on a weekly basis, and I just cannot say thank you enough. If you have not grabbed your free meal plan, please text the word meal to 706-222-7551. You'll get a couple confirmation texts as well as a link to a PDF. You can download it to your phone, and it is a full week's worth of meal ideas and plans along with recipes. So definitely check that out. All right, with that being said, let's dive in. So the carnivore diet, first off, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically where all of your diet comes from animal products. So you eat very high protein, very high fat, you're eating cheeses and milks and lots of meat, and it doesn't include anything that comes from a plant. So it eliminates most vegetables and fruit and all that good stuff. And I say good stuff with emphasis because I'm not a huge fan of carnivore, let's be honest. And I'm not a huge fan of any diet. And the reason being is because I feel like diets and different styles like this, whether, you're carnivore or whether you're a vegetarian or keto, why do we have to go all or nothing? That's kind of what I don't understand. When you see these interviews of these older people that are maybe like 100, 110, they'll ask them, what's the secret of long life? And so often they say balance. And I truly believe that that is 100% accurate. We have to eat a good balance of food. And that's what it all comes down to, is balance. How do we balance the good? How do we balance the bad? And that's really, I think, what true health means. Now, a lot of people say, well, plants aren't good because of all the chemicals sprayed on them and blah, blah, blah. And then you have other people that are like, well, animals products aren't good because of all the hormones they inject. And I get that you can do, organic and grass-fed and free range and all that. And I'm not against any of those things. But for a lot of people, the price point and the availability makes that not really an option. And I get that. And here's the thing, everything we consume is heavily processed, whether it's meat, whether it's vegetables, whether it's fruit. Unless you're like growing tomatoes in your backyard, which is awesome, you're going to have stuff in your food. It's the day and age in which we live. We don't live in the 1600s. We don't live, whenever. We live in today's age where in order for a vegetable to still be good by the time it hits our table, it has to be sprayed with stuff. It has to be, it has to have stuff done to it. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but what I'm saying is we have to accept that that's the day and age in which we live. And we have to do the best we can with what we have. We paint all these scenarios of, I wish it was this way, or I wish it, you know what, it is. So all we can do is accept where we're at, make the best decisions we can, and then go from there. And I feel like a lot of these diets, whether it's keto, whether it's carnivore, even, vegan sometimes. And I'm not saying vegan's a diet. I think that's more of a personal choice of how you want to live, and nothing against that at all. I think you can be healthy and be a vegan. It's not for me, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but that's another podcast episode. But so many of these things are fear driven. You watch this documentary or someone talks to you about it, or you read a book and it's all fear. It's like, if you eat vegetables, you're going to die. If you eat meat, you're going to die. Like everything's such fear driven. And I get it because fear sells. Fear will make us do some crazy things, some good. Fear can lead us to do good things, but fear can also lead us to do sometimes some nonsensical things. And that's what I feel like these companies that come up with these diets and push these products, they thrive off of this fear tactic. And every time that I'm watching something or consuming something and I start to be fearful, it's kind of like a warning sign to me. Like, okay, what's their agenda here? Or what are they trying to sell me because a pitch is coming? They're trying to get me to buy into this using the fear tactic. And that's just a huge turnoff for me. In all honesty, it is. I can't stand the whole fear-based things. I don't want to live a life in fear of, oh my God, I can't eat this apple because it was sprayed with some, you know what I mean? Like we can go off the deep end with this stuff. So I say all this to say I don't like carnivore because it's so restrictive, and because it's so fear-based, like, oh, don't eat plants. And honestly, I know a lot of people who love the carnivore diet because they get to eat a lot of crap. I mean, let's be real here. Yeah, I get to eat bacon every morning and steaks at night. Like, sure, of course it's going to appeal to a lot of people. But that doesn't mean that it's healthy. Just because somebody made a documentary or somebody wrote a book to try to pitch it, that doesn't mean it's fact. Carnivore, we don't have enough long-term research on a lot of these diets like keto or carnivore to know the long-term effects. And I'm not talking like the person like, well, I've been doing it for a year, I've been doing it for 2 years, and look at me. Like, sure, you might look healthy, but what's going to happen after 50 years of not eating vegetables? You know what I mean? What long-term effect is that going to have on the body? Personally, I don't think it's going to have a good one. And I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, so it wouldn't surprise me. But I just have an inkling that we need to be eating vegetables. We need to be eating plants. Like, why do we think that fiber and vitamins and the things that are entailed in fruit and vegetables are bad? It blows my mind. Truly does. But I digress. When someone tells you that, well, carnivore worked for them, they're down such and such pounds and they're in the best shape of their life and they feel better, here's the thing that we have to remember. You could technically, I don't recommend this, but you could technically eat Oreos every day in the right amount and exercise and lose weight. You could, because you lose weight by exercising and eating in a deficit. It's not by going on a certain diet. It's not by eating this crazy food that grows on Mount Moria. It's eating in a deficit and exercising. That's all it boils down to. And so to me, the best way to do that is by eating a healthy balance of all foods. Healthy balance. I don't know why that's so complicated. It's not. And we try to make fitness so complicated. We try to make this dieting thing so hard that you've got to do this diet and this diet and this diet, but it's really very simple. And I want to throw one other thing in there. Some people will say, well, I'm carnivore or I'm on keto and I feel so much better. Well, the reason for that is you were probably eating crap beforehand. Yeah, maybe you feel better on keto, but what were you eating before? Like, were the carbs you were eating pizza and mac and cheese and fries from Burger King? Yeah, you probably did feel like crap. Were you eating healthy carbs for the most part? Probably not. Were you eating sweet potatoes and oatmeal and quinoa? Like, probably not. Those probably weren't the kind of carbs you were consuming. So, don't just take one aspect of something and think, oh, it's because of this. There's a lot more at work. It's a much bigger picture that we really have to step back and evaluate and really ask ourselves, like, what's really going on here? Am I taking this stuff for face value, or am I really thinking of the big picture and what really benefits me? Because that's so much more important. I hope you found this helpful. Again, I just want to hopefully spread some light on some of these things and take away a lot of the questions that a lot of people have on this stuff. So if you found this helpful, please head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. It would mean the world to me. It helps just boost the podcast so we can reach more people. And that's ultimately what I want to do, just to share the simplicity of fitness, because again, fitness is simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. With that being said, remember, no matter what things you're coming up against, what obstacles you're facing in life, you can overcome any of them. You've got this.